Well, you probably heard by now that FDA has banned trans fat. Still, that may not mean much to you. So joining us with the facts on fats and which are healthy and which are harmful is Naturally Nourished dietitian Allie Miller. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Melissa.
Let's just sort of back up a little bit and talk about trans fats. What are they anyway?
Sure. So trans fats are a product of the food industry where they were looking to take an unsaturated fat and make it solid at room temperature to increase the shelf life of a product. The issue with the trans fat is that it's mechanically or man-made, and by adding that partially hydrogenation to the bond of the fat makes it more oxidized and can really create harmful risks for the body.
What we need to know, though, is it is important to get some fat in your body. It's just which fats, and so what do we look at when we're looking and buying in the store?
Yeah, what's really interesting is we always have to examine the structure-function relationship of fats. So it's important to question, are we going to apply heat to a fat? When we're looking at fats, we look at saturated and unsaturated, and by that it means whether they're closed bonds or open. If they have open bonds, a monounsaturated fat has one exposed bond. Poly have multiple. And so your monounsaturated fats would be things like your olives or olive oil. Those would be appropriate to be cold pressed or to use for dressings without a lot of heat. The polyunsaturated fats, we're actually starting to question, and new research is saying that actually with those multiple bonds, they may be able to be exposed and also oxidized.
So now are you talking about then when we're making something in the frying pan, we don't necessarily need to heat up that olive oil?
Right, we don't want to heat up the olive oil above 325 actually. That can create that oxidation.
And what's the typical heat when you're cooking it on your stovetop? Because it's easy to see 325 on your oven.
Once you go to medium is about 350. So you want to keep it before the medium, at low to medium. Otherwise you want to use actually a saturated fat, which, you know, we had demonized those for such a while in the food industry, and now we're seeing that those can be better tolerated and may not create heart disease risk. So today in our recipe we're going to be using things like grass-fed butter. This is going to have healthy fats actually by those cows eating the grass. They make CLAs, which can boost our metabolism, and using yogurt that has some fat, so like a 2% or a whole fat.
Okay, and you're going to quickly make us something healthy this morning?
Absolutely. We're going to do an almond butter pancake. So instead of using flour, we're using a fat as our primary base. It's going to be best for brain function. So we started already by blending a banana and 1 cup of homemade cashew milk. By doing that, I took 2 cups of the raw cashews, 3 dates that I pitted, and then 5 cups of filtered water and blended that up to make my cashew milk. So you don't have to buy it in the packages. So we have the nut milk and the banana. I'm going to toss in a teaspoon of cinnamon, a teaspoon and a half of, or half teaspoon, I'm sorry, of baking powder, some vanilla extract, my half cup of my almond butter, and 2 eggs, and blend that up. And then on the pan, if you wouldn't mind applying some of the grass-fed butter to that, I have the pan heated. And all of these, even the eggs, we're using the whole eggs with the egg yolk. That's where all of those essential fats are going to be and those nutrients that we need for brain development. So I'll crack my eggs in here and whip this up.
And again, everyone, remember, she says you can use this butter. She says it's healthy,
yes, you
but
can.
it's grass-fed, so we're talking about it hasn't been fed corn and grains that
it's going to be much less inflammatory.
Okay.
So this blends up just like a standard pancake thickness. And once we melt that butter on the bottom there, we'll be able to just pour on, I'll thin that out a little bit. And then we can just pour out our pancakes. And you treat them like you typically would. Wait for it to bubble before you flip. And you have a good, healthy, fat way to start the day.
And when we look at them over here, they're really nice and fluffy. And what have you put on top? Is it yogurt and berries?
Some Greek yogurt, a little bit of grade B organic maple syrup, and some raspberries.
It looks delish. Today's recipe is available on HoustonTexasFood.com. Thanks, Allie Miller, for being here.
Thank you.
I'm ready for breakfast.
Me too.